Hey guys, Fat Man Outdoors. Got another rod and reel combo review that I'm going to start here. Had a lot of people messaging me after posted the review, part 1 of the review on the Ugly Stick GX2, and asked me, well, that Walmart's got a lot of combos that are cheaper made combos at really low cost, and asking if I ever use any of those to see if they were worth buying the same, you know. So when we went to Walmart to exchange the GX2 for a new one after the rod failed, which we're going to get another episode of that out, because I'm almost 100% sure that rod was a one-off, that it was a factory defect and it caused it to snap. Because even I went and got the new one and I unboxed it last night and I put it back together and I put it under the same bin, that one recovered fine. Now my one concern I think I'm going to have with it is how many casts you're going to get before it's going to try to come apart. We're going to find out about that. Hopefully tomorrow I'm going to get to the dam and try to get some skipjack. But first we're going to talk about this rod. This rod and reel combo. Pretty little thing. Nice red and white. You can see it real good. It's a 6.5 foot 2-piece medium action. It's got a lot of eyes on it, as you can see. It's got a lot of eyes on it. It does have the eyes that are rated for braided line. I'm not going to run braided line on it. It is actually made by Southbend, and it is the Recluse Isolated Graphite Performance Spinning Combo. Give you a little bit of information about it. It has instant anti-reverse, 3 ball bearing drive. I would rather see at least 4. 3 would probably be okay for smaller fish, crappie, panfish, skipjack, maybe even some bass fishing, as long as you're not trying to get up into some of the bigger fish. But I would rather see more than 3. I'd rather see at least 4. And it has vented aluminum spool. Now this spool, I'm not sure exactly what the venting part's going to do. What that is I don't know how well you can see that, but there's slots cut in that. Okay, it's an aluminum spool, so it wasn't to reduce the weight. It just says vented, and I'm assuming that they're doing that so that the reel can dry out better and you don't have water sitting on the internals underneath the spool, the shaft that comes up and the drag components and all that. Not really sure. Don't really have an idea what the venting part would do to help that. And I kind of looked to try to find out, and I couldn't really find any info on what it does. You know, it's just, I guess maybe it's just kind of a manufacturing thing that they did it, and they're going to say, okay, it's got vented spool on it. What it does, I don't know. It has a graphite composite rod, aluminum oxide guides. Like I said, those will handle braided line. You don't have to worry about them cutting down in them and getting a groove ore in them and causing you problems with breaking your line, stuff like that. And they'll last a long time. And it's got a split grip. Now the split grip I really like, okay, and the reason that I do is because it does lighten the rod up some, and it makes it to where when you're holding it, if you can see, it's got foam here, then the blank, then more foam coming up to where you're going to grip the rod. I like that. It takes a little weight off the rod, and it balances the rod a little bit better. And to me, it looks much better than just a piece of foam there. But again, when you're out fishing, you're not worried about how it looks. You're not trying to pick a girl up because of the kind of fishing pole you got. But this I like for that reason, is that it kind of balances it out and it gives a contour here. I just like the way that is. Okay, and if you're going to be fishing in a rod holder, it makes it a little bit tricky. That you don't want to rest this blank on a pressure point that's going to be in a rod holder. So you got to come back here and get on the foam so that you're not scratching your blank up and taking the finish off of that. Okay, you don't want to do that. It's because if you do, then you'll open up that for moisture and stuff to get on the fiberglass that they make these out of, out on that graphite. You don't really want that. Now the reel seat, I like this reel seat. You can see it's kind of open there, and it's huge. That blank, the reel seat's, it's pretty good sized. The one thing, it is kind of strange to me that the blank size on the reel seat is quite a bit larger than the blank side, than the blank in front of the reel seat or behind it. So I'm not real sure that I'm assuming they probably, because you can see that it's how small it is there versus how big it is here. See the difference? And then if you come back here, it's the same thing. You got a smaller one and a much larger one. So they've built this up, but the reel seat itself is a Fuji type reel seat. It's a graphite reel seat, and I like that. It's got like the old style, part that holds the reel right here that you tighten down on the front end of the reel seat. Used to see these a lot in like saltwater reels, and I like that because it's aluminum right here. You don't have to worry about it busting out. It's got an aluminum band around it, and it's not going to probably ever bust out on you, and it's going to give you a real good seat for your reel. Now again, yesterday or the other day when we were doing the ugly stick, we did this and the rod failed. Okay, I mean, it just kapow. But like, again, I'm going back to that one more time. I honestly think it was probably due to a defect in the rod itself, because after I got the other one home and brought it back and did this same thing, it withstood it. But we're going to do some further testing with it too, and we're going to take both of these to the dam and use both of them on some skipjack and hopefully get some and see how they handle. Now the rod itself is 6.5 foot, 2-piece, medium action. Line weight is 6 to 14 pounds. The lure weight is 1/4 to 5/8 of an ounce. That 5/8 of an ounce on a medium action rod, I'm going to say you could still go a little heavier. You could probably go 3/4 of an ounce, and it'll probably handle it just fine. You're not going to get a lot of spring back. What they try to do is they try, with that lure weights, they try to balance these lure weights to the rod, that if you put too heavy of a weight on it and you try to cast with it, the reverb coming back through the rod is going to cause your line to spool up when it's trying to come out, and it's going to hinder you on how far the reel will cast. They're kind of just setting it up to where you can use the weights on the rod that'll get the optimum capability out of throwing the rod, casting it, and casting it accurately and retrieving. Now I like the reel because it does have positive anti-reverse. It doesn't turn backwards at all. Okay, the minute you stop it and try to turn it backwards, it will not turn backwards whatsoever. Now it is changeable, that you can put the rod handle on either side, and it does have a manual anti-reverse, and it works. It works really well. And like I said, that anti-reverse is positive anti-reverse. The whole frame is anodized aluminum. I don't believe there's any plastic or carbon fiber pieces in it. It's all aluminum. The spool, like I said, it is also aluminum, and it is vented. Again, I don't understand the point of the vent. It's got some good audible clicks when you adjust your drag, and the drag does have an audible click when the drag's going out. It does have a lot of adjustment on the drag, and you could pull the drag all the way down to complete. Basically, there's no way in the world 20-pound line probably wouldn't pull off of it without breaking it. But with that long range of adjustment, you can get a lot of drag adjustment on this reel and really get some sensitive drag. Now we kind of looked this rod over last night, and what I like to do is the touch thing. Okay, I want to hold the rod like I was fishing with it, and I want someone to get the other end of the rod and just tap it, and just tap the tip of that rod with their finger to see if I can feel it and how well I can feel it. And this rod was very sensitive to touch. Now if you're jig fishing for smallmouth on the bottom and you're real slow moving that jig and you're just trying to feel that pickup, just trying to feel that touch, or if you're jig fishing for walleye, same thing, that's good. That's really, really good. That you can feel that just slight little touch. My wife was helping with it. She really couldn't tap it light enough that I couldn't feel it. Now you could use a braided line in that circumstance, and you would feel everything that happened really good through this rod. And I think that it would make a really good rod for jig fishing for smallmouth or for walleye or even for crappie, that you would feel that just a slight little tap, that slight little tap. Because a lot of times with those fish, when they get out in the rocks or they get out on the edge of those weed beds, they're not super aggressive about hitting, especially on jigs. They just want to come up and take it and just sit there with it. But you can feel that initial take when they pull it into their mouth. And a lot of times that makes a difference on whether or not you get that fish, because they may hold it in their mouth for 10 seconds maybe, 8 or 10 seconds, until they realize, something doesn't feel right, and then spit it back out. But if you can feel that little tap, and then you can just lift, not jerk, but just lift, then you can get enough hook set off of the surprise that you're giving that fish when you make that lift, that they'll set the hook most of the time for you. But you need to be able to feel that, and this little rod, it has that ability to really transfer that small tap on the end of the rod back to your hand, so you know what's going on. But again, that'll work best if you're going to use braided line. I'm not going to put braided line on this. 8-pound trilene on this big game, the green. I like the green. It's low vis. I fish, like I said, I fish a lot in Dale Hollow for crappie and bluegill and smallmouth, and this line seems to disappear real well in the watercolor. And when it comes to spooling line on a spinning reel, you don't want to do the dad's old here, hold this just like this process so that the line will just roll off. That's wrong, because what you're going to do is you're going to twist that line up. Now by the time you get the whole reel spooled, you're going to have a lot of twists in your line that's going onto your spool on the reel. And what it's going to do is it's going to kind of mess up the memory of the line, and that's why you see a lot of times if you throw a line out and it's laying, it's got the little curly thing going on. That's because you got a lot of memory in your line. What you want to do when you spool a spinning reel, you want to stand it up, okay? And if you have, say, a smaller spool like this, you want to lay it flat, okay? And the thing about it is, when you do these, that most of them are going to be spooled. Okay, if you got them standing up straight, label side up, okay, like that. They're spooled counterclockwise, and when you're taking it off, you're going to be taking it off clockwise, and it's going to go on your reel that same way. So you're going to take that memory out. So, and almost all of them are spooled the same way. On occasion, you'll find some that aren't. So what you'll need to do if you come across one that isn't spooled to where it comes off clockwise, then flip the spool over and use the opposite side from the label. They may have had an issue in the factory where the label just got put on the wrong end of one of the spools or something, and you just happen to get that one. But they'll be coming off. They'll come off clockwise, and if you get them that set it up to where it's coming off clockwise, then it'll go on your reel really straight, and you won't have a bunch of curled up memory in your line. It'll help you a whole lot with that, and actually make your line's life expectancy on your reel much better, because it's not twisted. Because by the time you tighten that up, it's going to be twisted up. And you need to make certain that when your line goes on there, it's got tension on it. It doesn't have to be like stupid tight, but it needs to have tension on it. Okay, I'm not going to put you through watching me spool a reel. Real quick, something that I wanted to show you. A lot of people have trouble putting their line on their spool so that it doesn't pull off when they're trying to tighten it up before they start actually filling it up with line. So what I want you to do, easy way to do this is just do one overhand knot. Just one overhand knot on your line and pull that on an overhand knot so that you actually have a knot. I don't know how well you can see that, but a knot in your line, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to start another overhand knot, okay? And then you're going, and that's just making a loop. Then you're going to make another overhand knot. So now you have 2 loops, okay? Now, these 2 loops, you pull them out enough to go over your spool, keeping your first knot by itself, okay? And then you place them over the spool. Let me get this down here now where you see what I'm doing. You put them over the spool where both of those little loops are over the spool, and then you pull it down tight. Alright y'all, we got them spooled up. You can see there's not a lot of memory in the line. You just got the droops between eye to eye. That's all you got. That's what you get if you'll sit those spools down on the floor. Or a lot of people just, if they're on the water, they lay them in the water and they'll float and they free spin. And I don't know if that, a lot of people says it helps to do that because it lubricates the line a little bit with it getting wet sitting in the water going on the reel. I don't know that that helps it any, but it might. Who knows? There's a lot of little intricacies and stuff. One handy thing for you to keep around, maybe in your tackle box or in your boat, if you're going to be putting line on the reels, get you a pair of just regular old fingernail or toenail cutters. They're good about being small enough to get down in that spool and clip off that tag line when you put your choke knot on there to hold it onto the spool. Now, most reels will have some kind of marking on the spool when you've got it full, okay? And a lot of the newer ones now, they don't really per se have a line on there that says, you know, that shows you where to stop. They just go from the inside of the spool lip. You can see it on this one. The inside of the spool lip being flat to being curved. I hope you can see that. But it comes to a curve right to the edge of where I filled that line up. It starts being a bevel instead of being just a straight flat surface. And that's where you fill it up to, is just prior to that flat meeting the chamfered off area, the slanted area. That's about all I got for this one. Like I said, this was just more of a getting ready and showing what I was doing to get there. Tomorrow we'll know. Hopefully the skipjack, hopefully God will grant us the blessing of the skipjack cooperating tomorrow so we can get a few on film. That is supposed to be up in the 60s, so they should be back up to the dam wall, I hope, and see if we can't get a few and get it on camera and see how these reels and these rods work out. Guys, this is the Fat Man, and I'm gone. Hey guys, if you liked the video, hit subscribe. Don't forget to click that bell so you get notifications the next time we put out a video. Appreciate you. It's the Fat Man. I'm gone.